Welcome back to riskfeestaxes.com or Higher Ground Financial Group. I'm Imran Razvi. I'm here with my son, Daniel Razvi, who's a tax attorney.
Hello.
We talk about a lot of things on this radio show, and one of the things we get a lot of questions about is, hey, we're hearing all these things. I'm retiring. I'm thinking about these things, and people are pitching annuities to us. And some people are saying, oh, annuities are bad. Don't even think about annuities. They're the worst thing since sliced bread. You should never do annuities.
And then you talk to another advisor and he says, this annuity is the best because it gives you this bonus. And then another advisor says, this one annuity is the best because it gives you this income or this guaranteed roll up. And then another advisor says, no, theirs are terrible, but mine's better because it has less fees. And another one says, well, mine's better because you can do Roth conversions. And everybody's saying different things about this annuity is better than that. And they give you some little gimmick or feature of why theirs is better than everybody else. And how do you cut through the noise and figure out, first of all, is any type of annuity even worth considering? And if so, how do I know and how do I compare different ones? Because let's face it, every advisor is going to have their own little flavor of what they like. And it's not that they're all lying to you, right? They may truly believe that this one is better than the other one. So it doesn't matter which one you go with and why. What are some of the differences?
Think about transportation. You can take the bus, you can take a bicycle, you can walk, you can take a car, airplane. All those are different modes of transportation. Same with annuities. There's lots of different modes. And some people prefer a bus. Some people prefer a train. Some people prefer a car. So it's a matter of what it is that you're trying to solve, which annuity is going to be best for you. So you need to find an advisor that actually understands annuities and not just trying to sell you something.
And to answer the people that say, well, all annuities are always bad, well, I would liken it to, let's say you go to a car dealership and the car dealership has a lot of different, let's say it's a Toyota dealership and they have a big gas guzzling truck, and they also have this tiny Prius, and they got everything in between. And let's say a new government regulation has come out that has mandated that everyone needs to be very conscious of the environment, and we got to have gas mileage be really, really important. So the salesman at the dealership says all trucks are always bad, all SUVs are always bad. Everyone gets a Prius because it's got this best gas mileage. You're going to pay less in gas than any other car.
Well, because you have to haul things on your farm.
Yeah, you're a farmer or you're a plumber and you got to take these big loads places. How are you going to do that in a Prius? Obviously, it's very case specific. You might not care so much about gas mileage if you have to haul something that's very heavy. But if you're just going to commute to work, then you might care a lot about gas mileage. And you can't make a blanket statement saying the truck is always bad or the Prius is always bad. It depends on your situation and what you want to use it for. So I don't really appreciate when I hear people say, all annuities are bad, or all annuities are good. Everybody should have an annuity, or whatever the financial product or strategy is. Either it's good for everybody or it's good for nobody. Neither of those is ever going to be true.
When somebody says that, they cannot be a fiduciary because they're not taking into consideration what you need and what's important to you. So any company or any advisor that says all of this is bad or all of these things are bad, you should walk away from that person because they're really not considering what you need.
So now with all that said, maybe you have seen enough to believe that, yeah, I think an annuity would be good. It sounds interesting.
But how do you
talk to 10 different advisors and they got 10 different recommendations for annuities and they all look different. So how do I know which one's which? How to define them? So here's how you cut through the noise. First of all, you look, is the annuity variable or fixed? And there is a big difference because variable annuities are in the market. You can actually lose money on a variable annuity.
And variable annuities usually have a lot more fees. You have M&E fees because, again, the insurance company does not have access to your money, so they're not growing your money or taking any interest off of it. It's in the market. So they have to actually charge a fee to manage that annuity.
And not all variable annuities do have fees. Some of the newer ones called RILAs, registered index-linked annuities, they don't have any fees. They do still have chance of loss, but they don't have fees. So again, we don't want to make a blanket statement that all variable annuities have high fees, but a lot of them really do. So there's variable annuities and then there are fixed annuities. In many cases for retirement planning, if your goal is either to get a guaranteed income in retirement or just to keep your money safe and growing better than a CD will grow, then a fixed annuity is going to be better in most of those situations. But even within fixed annuities, you have two main types. You have growth annuities and you have income annuities.
And not only that, you also have limited to MIGAs, multi-year guaranteed.
That's within growth, you have MIGA or you have index, but then in the income, then you have income annuities. So all of those are different types. So in order to compare apples to apples, you have to compare two that are very similar type. So a lot of what's being advertised, because it sounds really cool, is the income annuities, because they'll say, well, you got this big bonus, or you got this guaranteed roll up, the guaranteed, and sometimes it says guaranteed return. They're not supposed to say returns, because the guaranteed increase on that is only for income purposes or pension purposes. It's not really actual money. So be very careful if you see somebody that says guaranteed returns of 7 or 8 or 10% or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not actually true.
yeah, I've heard it on the radio several times. Somebody saying you got 30% the first year bonus, and then it's a 10% return every year. So it's 38%, 40% the first year, whatever it is, and it's not really a return, because that money is not real money. It's only designed for income purposes.
So should they not buy that annuity? Is it all misleading and false? No, not necessarily, because just because the way it's explained is incorrect doesn't mean the product itself is bad. It may be very good. When you're looking at an income annuity or a pension annuity, generally what you're looking at is, if I put in $500,000 or $1 million, how much am I going to get back every month as a guarantee? That's really the most important thing. Or if I wait 5 years, what's going to be my guarantee starting 5 years from now or 10 years from now, right? That's what you compare them. And we have a spreadsheet that when clients go to our website, riskfeestaxes.com, and they click and make an appointment, and they ask us about this, I can pull up my spreadsheet and I can compare all the different income annuities that are available on the market. And it doesn't compare them by how big the bonus is or how big the roll-up is. It compares them by what is the bottom line guaranteed income that you're going to have each month or each year in retirement, because that's the way to compare. There's one annuity that has a 50% bonus, but the percentage you get each year of that high bonus is actually very small. And there's another annuity with no bonus, but the percentage they give you is much higher. So you actually get more income with that one than you get with the one that has a big bonus. So just because it has a bonus or a roll up doesn't mean it's better. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. The only way to really tell is compare the guaranteed income at the end of the day.
And the income can come in different flavors too. You can have income that's static, income that actually grows depending on what the market does, and income that grows automatically. So you got to take a look at a lot of different variables, and many agents sell annuities just sell the bling. Look at this big bonus. Look at this big thing. Look at this big shiny object.
So what you always want to do is peel back that fluff and say, okay, forget the bonus, forget the guaranteed this and that roll up. What am I actually going to get each month if it's an income annuity? And if it's not an income annuity, then what are they providing me? And can we compare it to something else that has that also has good growth? So the other side, besides income annuities, are these growth annuities. And growth annuities come in a couple flavors, like Raz, you mentioned, these MIGAs, which are guaranteed every year. You get exactly the same interest rate, no matter what it is. And those are more usually around the 4 or 5.5% range, depending on when you're looking at them.
But those guarantees are only for what, 3 years or 5 years?
And there are some that are even 7 years or 10 years, but most common is the 3 to 5 years for MIGAs. And it's better than a CD. Usually gives you higher interest for a longer time, but there's no possibility of higher growth with that. Then there are index annuities, and those you get interest based on what the market does, whether it's the S&P or some other index. And you got to be careful when you look at those, because a lot of times those illustrations will show, well, the last 10 years you did 10% or 12% or 15% return. Well, you might have in a bull market, but will that happen in the next 10 years? Who knows? What a good expectation, I think, for a competitive index annuity is that it will do better, significantly better, but probably on the order of 50 to 100% better than a similar fixed account like a CD or money market that you purchase at the same time.
Right.
So if the 10-year treasury a few years ago was paying 2%, some of these index annuities, you could get 4% or maybe even 5% or 3.5%, somewhere in that range. Now, if the 10-year treasury is at 4.5% or 5%, then you might be possibly able to get 6, 7, 8% in realized gains on that over time, but probably not 12 or 15 or 20%. If your illustration shows something that's higher than what the market itself is doing, then there's probably something that's being
Adjusted
in the numbers that make it a little more misleading.
And that's the thing with illustrations. You can put in a lot of different things to make it look really good, but you want to look at the middle of the road, up or down. It could be either way. But the other thing that comes up is if I put my money in an annuity, isn't it locked up? What about my liquidity? What about my options? The insurance company has it. I can't get my money anymore.
Well, you can take withdrawals. Most annuities Not all. So you have to check to make sure. Most annuities allow up to 10% you could take out every year. There's some that are 7 or 5, but most are 10. So you could take that money out every year. And you don't usually want to take more than that out anyway, because you're going to run out of money pretty quickly. If you're taking 10% out and you're only earning 6 or 7 or 5 or whatever, you're going to run out of money. So it works really well for retirement accounts. And so that kind of brings me to, what money should you use? And is there a tax consideration when you're buying an annuity? And there is. We would recommend, if you have the choice of using an IRA or using just some stock brokerage account, use the IRA for the annuity, because it's still an IRA. There's no change to that.
So you mean if I'm roll my IRA or 401k into an annuity, I don't have to pay taxes?
That's right. You don't have to pay taxes because it's still an IRA. And that brings me to one of the most important things. If you have any desire to convert this money to tax-free in the future, if you're thinking about doing Roth conversions, then you really want to be careful, because there are very few insurance companies that allow partial Roth conversions. If you put $500,000 in an annuity with most insurance companies and you want to convert it to Roth, they will require you to convert the entire $500,000 to Roth at once, because most companies do not have a mechanism for separating that out without charging you a fee. And so you have to pick. If you have a desire to convert to Roth, then you have to either pick one of the few companies that allows partial Roth conversions, and there are several. There's more every year, because companies are recognizing that clients want this, but there are several that do allow it now, and they're very competitive companies. And if you really want a company because of some feature they have, and it's not on that list that we have of companies that allow partial Roth conversions, then you'd have to get several smaller annuities.
So you break up that 500,000 into smaller amounts, so that's 800,000 each.
And most agents and advisors don't like to mention that idea to you, because it's a lot more paperwork for us. But as a tax attorney, I care much more about, can I save you money on taxes, than if I have to do a little extra paperwork. It makes much more sense to either break it up into much smaller annuities that you can convert one each year, or get one that allows you to convert partial amounts without changing the terms of your contract.
Right.
And that's very, very important. So try to cut through all the noise, ignore the bonuses and the bling and the roll-ups and this and that. If it's for income, what's the bottom line? How much is it going to pay me every month? And is there another one that pays me more? And what is the catch? And then if it's for growth, how do I have a realistic assumption of what it's going to make? And have these indexes actually been around for a long time? Am I paying fees? Those are some things you should think about. Go to our website, riskfeestaxes.com. Talk to our tax attorneys and get some advice. riskfeestaxes.com.
For free.